Today, it's Edwin's Monday evening Property Rant. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. And today I'm joined by our property insider, Edwin Almeida. And just before we start, a quick reminder that tomorrow, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Sydney time, I'll be running my next live stream event with Chris Bates, mortgage broker, who will be able to discuss the latest with regard to what he's seeing in the property market. And you can also ask him a question live via the DFA blog or live on the channel. I'll see you then. Hi, Edwin.
G'day, Martin. Lots been happening. I hope you've been able to keep up with everything that's been happening lately.
It's a bit much, isn't it? There's too much going on. I think we should just turn the volume down and get back to normal. But it's a bit difficult at the moment, isn't it?
Look, it is, but it's exciting, isn't it? Nonetheless, it keeps us ticking away and moving along. You just got to duck and weave quicker than what we used to before, Martin. As long as you don't get hit, we're okay. But it is rather turbulent with what's going on out there, and we're going to be talking about a number of the issues and what we've come across. And it all seems to be running parallel to what's happening over in the US.
Yeah, well, it is actually quite interesting how all of these things are interconnected. Of course, the Reserve Bank taking rates lower is driving, I guess, more interest in terms of those cheap loans. And so everybody's now spruiking the property market again like Billy-O. And of course, the stock market today hit a 8-month high because with Biden likely to get in as the next president, they're now saying, all the trade barriers are going to come down again and everything's going to be fine there. I think the reality may be a bit more complex than that.
Look, it definitely is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on. The rigged elections, the rigged data that goes to the banks and the RBA, and I mean, it's all projected. That's the key word for this week. The flavour of the week is projected. So a projected Biden administration. We're going to talk about what that means for us, I guess, in with regards to property. But but there's so much going on. It's really difficult to keep up with it. I've even had what Trump is alleging, the Republicans are alleging over in America, that they've had people from the grave voting. We've had people from the grave bidding at auctions, Martin. Go figure.
Well, the question is, can they sign the contract, I suppose?
It's just one of those things. I talk about the professional bidders. I came across one over in the North Shore again over the weekend. He went in. I went in low. He went in hard and above. Chased me on a property on a bid. Came in 200,000 above where we kicked off, and that was it. That was it. He was expecting me to come back in, and I just said, no thanks, you can keep it. And it got passed in.
Well, that's very interesting, right? And I suppose it's a bit of a question in terms of what momentum, where the momentum is, who's bidding, etc., etc. But I just get the sense that the spin that's being applied is getting more and more excessive as we see what's unwinding. And it's interesting because you highlighted a recent article, well, actually quite an old article, relating to the index from the Property Observer from a few years back.
Yeah, look, our friend Lindsay David sent through that article with regards to the hedonic daily index, and our friend the Wolverine published or wrote about it, spoke about in 2011, November 2011, on Property Observer, and points out some very interesting things with regards to how accurate and how precise and how up to date the daily hedonic index is, and how superior it is to everything else that's out there. And the relevance, I guess, in us going through this article today and talking about it in a little bit more detail is the simple fact that we've now got Sydney Morning Herald, the ABC, Tarek featured on news.com with his article with regards to the data that he's collected, and so all this fake news and fake data that's being out there it's starting to really hit home. And I guess likewise, we'll see what happens at the election in the US as well, with all that the fake voters and whatnot. It's really uncanny, Martin, how it all just was running side by side with what we're going through here with regard to property and how it's reflected over there in America. It's just uncanny. Sometimes when I wake up, I wonder whether I should get out of bed or not, or just stay in bed.
Well, yeah. I mean, Tarek's article was brilliant, I have to say, and it picks up the PEXA data set, right, which is, I made a post on it a few weeks ago. That's essentially the old land registries, right, which have now been privatized, and they've started to put out their information, which is based on all the transactions rather than from some sort of hedonic model. And of course, they're suggesting that prices are dropping more quickly than they did a decade ago, which would suggest that maybe things are not quite so rosy as some other indices would suggest.
Well, exactly right, and if we can read out that specifically what Joy says on Property Observer, he says this index, which is based on a sophisticated statistical method known as the hedonic imputation. Let's start throwing that word around. Hedonic imputation will afford extremely accurate and low variability house price estimates right down to the suburb level, Martin. Can you go figure? It's going to be right down to granular to the suburb. It's going to challenge your data. It will be the first time in history that all homes in a suburb have been repriced every single day using the daily flow of incoming sales data. Pigs fly. That's all I can say. Pigs absolutely fly. I just tweeted out a tweet and reminding Tim Lawless and CoreLogic to, hey, you haven't updated the sale over in Chatswood West from about 3 weeks ago. Why hasn't that been updated? There's a lot of misinformation on CoreLogic back end where properties aren't updated and haven't been updated for the last 20 years. And they're telling us that this is a daily index and this information is updated on that back end daily, Martin. I mean, it's incredible. I thought I'm just overwhelmed. I'm just going to go out and buy shares in CoreLogic, I think.
US company, good luck. But the fact is, of course, that the information flows that they once had, they no longer have access to for all sorts of reasons that we won't go into deeply. And so you've got to ask the question, well, where are those information flows? Where do they come from? How does it flow into the index? How are the hedonics being overlaid on the end of it? And you've highlighted over the last few shows a number of examples where specific properties have been stated way higher in their hedonic estimate relative to what actually happened. And if that is being manifest in a number of different transactions over time, then that means that the overall index is going to depart from reality by quite a lot.
Well, that's correct. And look, let's fair is fair. And you know how we are here in Australia, we play fair. And I have come across a one over on Marlborough Road lately that the hedonic index is actually hasn't been updated for about 30 years. Or I shouldn't exaggerate. Let's call it 29 years. And as a matter of fact, it's showing as a high confidence sale of 1,470,000. It just got sold on the weekend for 1.7. But look, it's and the reason why is because that property hasn't been sold hasn't transacted for just as many years, and therefore the hedonic index hasn't picked it up. I've taken a screenshot of it. I've taken a screenshot of the hedonic index. I've taken a screenshot of what it says, and I can guarantee you that in about 2 weeks' time, when the agent starts putting the information out on domain or REA, then the hedonic will pick it up, and they'll reevaluate the daily index proposed, high percentage value of that property, and you'll more than likely come over 2.3, 2.4 million. But it's all over the place. It's a scam, mate. It really is a scam. We just keep on coming across this false information, fake data, and quite frankly, as I keep on saying over and over again, it's almost criminal. I mean, I'm standing alongside Trump. It's criminal. What's going on? It's really criminal. Apart from having dead people turn up at auctions, and bidding, where this hedonic daily index is. There's something wrong with it. The system is broken, Martin. It's well and truly broken, and I'm glad that the ABC are picking up on it as well.
Yeah, well, the ABC have made a very interesting article today by Ian Verrinder, I think it was, why stocks and housing are booming through the coronavirus recession while wages and savings stagnate. Interesting analysis.
Look, it is. And again, Tarek has pointed out over and over again the delayed economic grenades that are about to hit this country. I mean, we're now going to be projecting 3 million people unemployed. My God, Martin, the Russians are back. I can see myself freezing on the screen again. It's I called up the NBN and I said, listen, I don't want to be on dial-up anymore. I wanted to upgrade to high speed, and now the Russians have interfered. They've hacked me, Martin. The Chinese, the CCP, and the Chinese have hacked me.
Yeah, you're freezing again. Yeah, and then you sort of come back to life and wobble very quickly to try and catch up, and then you stop again.
Yeah, I can see myself frozen. It's what? Do you want me to reset the modem again?
So you're now on the wireless variety. Let's see whether that works any better.
Well, Matt, I just had to. Those firewalls are just not protecting me from the Russians and the CCP at the moment, mate. It's getting a bit wild. I'm just going over a private one of those private VPN networks, so I had to redial back in. So I was just freezing too much, Martin. I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, well, there you go. At least we're back now, and so we'll try this. I have to say, your freezing was very funny because you'd stop and then you go really fast, right? And then you stop again and go really fast again. So,
well, yeah, I've had to do that of late. I'm doing a bit of training because I've had a few confrontations at the auctions now. So you just have to move and duck and weave real quick. Otherwise you get punched in the face. It's not a very good feeling.
Yeah, so we were just talking about that ABC article, which Ian Verrinder wrote. And, it's very interesting because he makes the obvious point about all of this money printing that's been going on and going on around the world, and highlighting still all of the other negative impacts with regard to the economy. And as you say, Tarek has been highlighting some of those too. So it's almost like pulling in two different directions, right? So you've got very cheap money on one side, but you've got a lot of these other negative factors, which are likely to become more significant ahead. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Look, it is, Martin, and as you and I have been saying for how long now? For a few years since we've started talking and sharing the information that we have, and that is that the system is rigged. When we fundamentally we can see the changes that are coming up ahead, and then they change the goalpost. They change the rules of engagement. They throw in more stimulus. They throw in this. They throw in that. But sooner than later, they're going to run out. They're going to run out of steam, and sooner than later, as I keep on saying, you can keep on pushing and putting those mattresses at the bottom of the ravine, but that sucker is going to come down, and it's going to come down hard. And quite frankly, I think it's only going to be harder. Now, I know we've lost some more bears over the course of the last week, and they've gone over to they've now almost become turncoat economists. because now they're saying that there won't be any changes. I think what we're seeing is going to be fluctuation in prices, particularly around homes in regional areas, because of the shifting sands of the population. Now, you and I spoke about this even before Corona or COVID-19 or lockdowns were a thing. I pointed that out, and how things. I said that there was going to be a shifting of the population, from the apartments, the high rise, to further afield, to regional areas, and more so now that that people can work remotely, they can work from home. But interesting how. You and I brought up the subject of working from home and the perils of working from home, because sooner than later your employer is going to realise that they can pay somebody else a lot less. They themselves can take up the hours. The people that are working from home are actually working a lot longer, and fundamentally they're going to be getting paid a lot less. So is it worth it? And there's going to be a call for people to go back into working at in the commercial buildings. Two reasons. One is because commercial space is becoming cheaper by the hour or cheaper by the day. And secondly, people are starting to get bored at home, particularly if they don't have the space. And there's a lot of factors that are interwoven in working from home that people haven't really considered. So again, it's a shifting sand process. The dust has to settle, and before it settles, we end up with more economic grenades being thrown over and testing the markets in the regions, in particular parts of Sydney and so forth. So again, we can only call it the way it flows. We can only call the game, the fight, punch by punch. But we're not trying to be predictive in any way, shape, or form. But we can sort of get the feel of what's to come, and the fact that a lot of the very valuable information is being suppressed. But how long can they suppress it for is the big question.
Well, absolutely, Edwin. And I just wanted to pull a couple of points directly from the article, right? So he wrote, originally the idea was that lower rates would encourage firms to borrow and invest, which would then lead to more jobs and an economic recovery. Some does trickle down into the real economy, but mostly it's all about rigging markets. And then he went on to say, and low rates keep house prices buoyant. So in one simple swoop, you can pump up asset markets across your economy and weaken your currency, which makes you more competitive. Sure, debt levels go crazy, but hey, it's all about today. The problem is that having laid the foundations for stocks, bonds and housing price bubbles, the world's central banks are now scared witless about them bursting. And that's the point. This is all about trying to keep property prices artificially high, because the consequences, if they do slide over, are actually very significant. The question is it going to be conceivable that they can continue to do that? Because effectively, you have to pump in more and more money, not linearly, but logarithmically, to try and keep it all up and, sort of working okay. But the problem also is, Edwin, that if you actually are competing with everybody else, all the other central banks around the world, right, so they're all pumping, it means that your exchange rate won't necessarily adjust the way that you expect it to. Because essentially, if you look now, our exchange rate to the US is now sort of 73 plus, right, which is not where the Reserve Bank wanted it to be. So I have to say that at a macro level, the RBA and other central banks' policies are completely disastrous. But the consequences on the ground are that many property prices are in weird places, and there are some which are probably going to go up. But this is not sustainable, is it?
No, look, and again, because we're dealing with with perhaps, if I can explain it this way, internal economics. But once the borders are open, and I feel that's the next play. The next play is going to be for to open up the international borders, and because there's no other choice. This internal shifting sands and transfer of wealth that's happening at the moment will only go so far, and will only take it so far. As I said in the last podcast, we got to be watchful of the Chinese money that's coming over from New Zealand, and that's because of the Wechat Chatter that my associates and myself we've been getting with regards to people selling in their homes in New Zealand, because they can see that economically New Zealand's not going to be as better off as what we are here in Australia, and they're going to shift the wealth from there because they've made some very high capital growth in the pockets that they've bought, and they're going to bring it here because they can do so because they have the PR or permanent residency status, so they can buy established homes. The local Chinese community, Asian community, they're also shifting the wealth from one asset class to another. They're not keeping it in the banks. They're putting it in land because they can see that is a good proposition right now, given the fact that houses are achieving very high levels of rental yield. So they're looking at the return in the bank, as opposed to the return of their money in a property. And quite, I've picked up a couple of clients for that particular reason, because they can get a 1% return. I mean, these are people that have got, a couple of $1 million in the bank, Martin. They're buying properties in cash. So, but likewise, we've got the retirees. There's so many balls that the government's got to juggle. And again, I say that these quagmires that they're getting themselves into, these impasses that they're getting themselves into, are only going to be fixed or are only going to be opened up or resolved if they open the international borders in order to allow that, the overseas flow of money once again, and in order to allow the tourism industry and other industries that rely on international travel to once again flourish. But the way we're going at the moment, the course that it's headed, you can only cut the rates so far. You can only go so far with all the economic stimulus. But that's got a finite limit. Whereas what I see as a logical thing is to open up the borders, and the question is, will they, and when will they do it?
Well, absolutely, yes. And of course, the risk there is if you do open up the borders, do you then let the virus back in? We don't want to follow suit of Europe or indeed the US. There is a significant risk, of course, that happens. So there is a very significant trade-off to be made there. But the broader economic agenda of, as you say, trying to pull that money back in and trying to support prices will perhaps influence people more than they should in terms of what they're going to do. And that, I think, is a broader risk too.
Yeah, look, and there are a couple of areas that flow on from that. One is as we know, that I call it funny money, and which is money that comes predominantly from Asia. And also the shenanigans that go on with the government departments here, and how they're able to, overseas investors are able to buy established properties, free and readily. There's no real stop valves there. It's open slather, and that could happen. Obviously, there's a lot that's playing out over in Asia and America as well. That's gonna influence what happens here, and how we're dealt with. Because quite frankly, I don't believe that we're in control. The other parties are controlling us. But the good thing is, Martin, look, let's look at the bright side. The good thing is now that the Trumpster's being so-called ousted out of the White House, my understanding is that we're not going to need a vaccine because the Democrats are partying, and I haven't seen the incoming administration wearing masks at the parties and so forth at the home. So I'm just putting it out there. I think the found a solution for COVID, and I think it's going to be rosy moving forward. I don't know. Again, it's just one of those things, Martin, just putting it out there.
Well, that's in the same category as that tweet you put out with Biden talking about hedonic becoming great again. Well, look,
that is the Wechat Chatter. That is the Wechat Chatter. And look, let's, again, this is just my personal observation. So I'm not a political analyst. I don't pretend to be. I just have a lot of fun with this sort of stuff. But I do take stock of what goes on overseas as well as what goes on locally. Locally, as in my suburb, in my city, in my state, in the country in general, because I like to look at how things are going to change, how the demographics are going to change within suburbs, within regions, within areas, because that has an effect on the buying capacity, power, and speed that we then obviously communicate to our purchasers to prepare for? Do we wait and wait for the market to drop a little bit more? Do we jump in now because it's going to pick up? All that is very important for all our clients. So look, these are just my thoughts, and I shared those thoughts with one of my Twitter followers there, Winded Penguin. Here's a shout out for you. I'm of the opinion that we are going to be a political football moving forward, whether it be a Democratic administration or whether it be a Republican administration. And for me, and for the WeChat chatterers that I speak with over the course of the week and on the weekend, is that the property market is going to potentially gain greater heights in terms of property price, or an adjustment in the rise in property prices under a Biden or under a Democratic administration. Why? Because they feel, and I feel, that they will suck up to China. They will make us kiss and make up to China for the position that we've taken with regards to COVID and the plague that's been released around the world. And we're gonna be walking with our tail between, or our politicians are going to be walking with a tail between their legs. And the problem with that is that they're not necessarily interested in our produce as much as they are in our land, as much as they are in the safe haven for the corruption, to the corrupt money that could potentially flow out. Now, on the other side of that coin, I must say that Xi Jinping is putting a lot of measures, from what I've been informed, strong measures in place to stop people from taking money out of China, because things in China aren't as rosy as what many would like to think. And yes, Robbie, that message goes to you as well. I know you get your information from your local chef at the local Chinese takeaway shop, but mate, my sources are a little bit closer to the truth than what much of the stuff that's put out by the local pundits or the local political pundits that like to rant and rave about what China is or what it isn't. So I'm just putting information out there so that people can get a clearer picture, and as to why I believe there's going to be this potential change. So I like to think that that would be one of the scenarios that would play out. Obviously, I've heard some talk about, some in the mainstream media have said that under a Biden administration or a Democratic administration, that America will turn a blind eye to China moving into Taiwan. But I'm of a different opinion. I believe that potentially there's a better chance that there won't be a war. However, under a Republican administration, I think the position will be a lot stronger. Will be taking a lot stronger with regards to China, and particularly with what's going on now with the rigging of the election and the alleged influence that China's had in the election. So there'll be a greater stance, and then obviously we have to we will be supporting our allies, and we'll be get caught up in a greater conflict. Now, obviously, with regards to property, then it's going to be a better ride under the Biden administration if you're looking at capital growth. But I think a lot of it's going to pull in the heat and a lot faster under a Republican administration, because the borders aren't going to be opened up as quickly as what many would like to otherwise think they could be.
Yeah, well, there's lots of uncertainty, and I do highlight the fact that uncertainty tends to lead to people sort of sitting on the sidelines rather than transacting. I noticed that there was quite a significant so-called spike in transactions in Sydney, although if you look carefully, in fact, the number of auction clearances that really happened over the weekend were not particularly higher compared with last week, if you include the ones that were actually done prior and afterwards. So again, never mind the data getting in the way of a good story, eh?
No, well, between my associates and myself over the weekend, we attended almost 6 or 7 auctions, and they all the ones that we were attending, they all got past 10, Martin. And so, and needless to say that they got past in at much lower values than what the guides were. And hence there is, but what we are witnessing is all the shenanigans and all the cloak and dagger stuff, that smoke and mirror stuff that agents are participating in to basically try and rope that sale or that that emotional buyer. That's what's rising. Property sales in itself as transactions, I don't really see that's changing a great deal, and I'm of the opinion that the buying pool is shrinking. Now we've consistently had for the last 2-3 weeks, we've consistently had just above 19,000 dwellings listed for sale under the domain portal in the Sydney region. And we've also had over 8,500 freestanding homes listed for sale in the domain portal. I don't believe that this week's going to be any different, and nor next week. But what I am noticing is that there's less and less enthusiasm to purchase, and that there will be less and less enthusiasm to purchase because we are coming close to the end of the year. So what's going to be telling are going to be the numbers over the next couple of weeks. The question is are they going to continue to rise when now the numbers after the next couple of weeks should then start tracking downward with regard to listing numbers? But the big question is are they going to be consistent? Are they going to continue to steadily rise as they have been over the last 3-4 weeks? That's a $64,000 question. But I'm of the opinion that they're not going to regress. I'm of the opinion that they're going to keep on going and maintain a steady course. But obviously, February, March next year is going to be a different kettle of fish because of the stimulus packages that are going to be withdrawn.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, Edwin, that in one of the newspapers again today, they were talking about the boom before Christmas, as everybody wants to sort of buy and sell before Christmas, right? That's their line of argument.
Yeah, look, admittedly, I've got 3 clients that want to buy before Christmas. But what we've made very clear to the agents is that we don't want to pay the silly prices that other people may want to pay, or may be telling the agents that they could pay, not that they can pay, but they could pay. And all the agents are saying, we feel that this is worth 2.5. I turn around to them and I'll say, well, I feel it's worth 1.9. So, suck on those lemons. It's just one of those things. So, there always is, and there has been a bit of urgency before Christmas to settle in before the holiday break. But the question is, not many people are thinking of taking holidays because, quite frankly, so that's why I'm saying we can't go to Queensland. We can't plan for real holidays overseas. So that's my thought, that it's going to be one of those new chapters that. The 2020 has brought about with regards to the property industry, and that is that transactions are going to keep on going throughout the Christmas period, because we can't say things are going to happen or things aren't going to happen. It's 2020 after all, and the year's not over yet.
No. I'm sure we're in for another couple of surprises. Now, of course, you went, as you said, to a number of auctions, and I was admiring the top that you wore.
Mate, look, seriously, 50% of the people were talking about the shenanigans that agents get up to on the weekends under these auction campaigns, and the other 50% of the people were talking about my Inca bodysuit. A little bit of history, Martin. A little bit of history. So this is what I've got here, right? So this is the Inca bodysuit, right? So that's the Inca bodysuit, and and the slogan that the Inca bodysuit is basically a alpaca wool that's been woven tightly so that you can withstand the high altitude temperatures of the Andes when you're going to a long track or when you're going to war, right? So this is one of those a modern version of the Inca bodysuit. So I had to wear it for two reasons, because I was going to war at the auctions this weekend, particularly one over in the West, and secondly because the weather can't make up its mind whether it's going to be hot or cold. So it's one of those all-purpose weather type of garments. But the motto that the guys that provide these bodysuits is your partner wishes you could wear one, but in your dreams, fat boy, because you have to have a certain physique to wear one, Martin.
Right, and you have that physique, Edwin?
Well, I like to think so. Some have been talking about my man boobs. I just want to make it clear. It was bad camera angle. It was the bad camera angle.
Yeah. I mean, that's always a really good excuse, isn't it? It was the lighting. Right?
Exactly, it was the lighting.
Yeah.
Exactly, Martin. Yeah.
But the more serious point is those auctions weren't very successful, right? So pretty much all of them didn't.
No, they weren't very successful. And look, one in the West that I've got to be careful as to naming it. There was a lot of shenanigans, as I put out in the tweet. I made a certain offer prior to during the early auction campaign. We felt it was a very generous offer. My client was happy to pay that again because they want to move into the property before Christmas and settle in. So we made what we thought was a generous offer. It was rejected. We were told we were shy of the guide, and they weren't going to entertain anything even closer to the bottom of the guide, which at that time was 730. Now we went elsewhere. We started looking at other properties. Then we realised that the guide had been adjusted to 690. So we took note of that, and obviously we paid a lot of interest to it, given the fact that we'd offered above the 700 and below the 730, which was the bottom of their guide, not my guide, their guide, and we let it go. We said, okay, that's interesting. And a week before the actual auction, the guide was dropped to 770. Now, look. Well, when you drop the guide to 670 from 730, well, our viewers can make up their own conclusions. So what I did was I put in a formal offer of 690 pre-auction, given the fact that that the guide had dropped to 670. The offer was rejected, Martin. So I took it upon to front up to the auction. I knew what was going on, but nevertheless, you never know your luck, as they say. So unless you throw your hat in the ring, you're not going to know. So my buyer and myself, we went in there. We were ready for war with the body armor and everything, and we went in, and sure enough, I started the auction at 580. That bid was rejected. Went to 600. That bid was accepted. I stopped at 600. Then our competition took it up to 625, and then it stopped. So then they were looking at me, calling me, doing their bid as they do to encourage me to go. Given the fact that I'd given a formal offer pre-auction of 690. I said no. I said, and then the typical argument is, well, you're not going to have the first opportunity, the first crack at talking to the vendor and blah blah blah, this and that. And I said, look, good luck. Yeah, good luck to them. So lo and behold, they didn't even negotiate with the highest bidder, which was 625. They didn't even negotiate with it, and they after about 10-15 minutes, they called it off. They passed it in with a guide above my initial offer of 710, and then I just had some words with them and walked out. So I had some cordial words with them, very cordial, I worked with them, and before I walked out, that was one. Another one where we got what we felt one was a you could say one of those, like those dead Democratic voters over in the US. It was similar to one of those that turned up to this auction over in Cogra Bay. $5 million property. One of my associates had put an offer on behalf of his client at 3.5 because there's no occupation certificate. And there's a lot of work that a lot of rectification work that would need to be done to the property before the council will approve its occupation. So, we did the maths, but strangely enough, they had this rather, from what he tells me, they had this rather interesting bidder that was in the corner, was wearing a raincoat, a hat, glasses, and was very, very, very elusive bidding. And look, we know what goes on. And at another one, as I said earlier on, we had one in Chatswood where what I could only think is a professional bidder came in and tried to outbid me, and I said, mate, if you want to pay $2 million for this, go crazy, go nuts. And then at the end of the day, he stopped there and he didn't push anymore. I started the bidding at 1.8. There's a lot of that going on, Martin. And quite frankly, we need to call it out. And I ask our friends and followers and people in Sydney, to attend. I'm going to start posting out more as to the ones that I'm going to be attending, so that we can hold these agents to account. These shenanigans and this smoke and mirror stuff has to stop, Martin. It really has to stop.
Yeah, well, of course, the answer is, Edwin, they should auction your shirt there, right, and give a free property away.
Now, I'm still thinking that when they post 2021, February 2021, I'm thinking that there's going to be a deal made with the federal government and property auctioneers, that with every sale, the successful bidder buyer, they're going to get not one but two vaccines. I don't know. I'm sticking to that. That's just
right, and a free ticket to travel overseas.
Well, no, and dinner with Xi Jinping, I guess. I don't.
Edwin, what can I say? You always take me to places that I don't expect.
Well, look, as long as it's entertaining. But look, in all that, I hope that people can take away the gold and the gold nuggets and the truth that we share, Martin, because the lack of information that's out there, or the information that's the good information, or real information, as opposed to the phony information and the false narratives that's out there, and the delayed data. Look, worst case scenario, it's dodgy, false, misleading information. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario for a lot of them is delayed data. So that's the mainstream. That's the mainstream and their narrative. So I hope I try to make it as fun as possible, and I hope people can take away some truths, and they can adopt it to their play when they go out and try and buy properties.
Well, we should certainly say that Edwin exposed himself tonight on the channel, eh?
Well, look, at least I'm not eating my shorts, because that property I don't believe is going to sell for the hedonic value of 2.4 when the agent is guiding 1.5 to 1.6. Right. So, and I put a further proposition out there that I not only will eat my shorts, but I also eat Team Lawless's shorts if it gets offered the hedonic value of 2.4.
Yeah, I don't want to see it, Edwin. I just don't want to see it. Thanks very much for your time tonight, and we'll do the same again next week, eh?
Definitely. Always a pleasure.
Okay. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.